So let's start our discussion for today. So today basically only major topics are two that we are going to cover within a stipulated time of 40 minutes, right? 40 or 50 minutes. So outline of today's lecture is, so we'll be starting with velocity and acceleration, how to calculate. Then we'll go for the methods of fluid descriptions. Already you may have some idea about it. So briefly, I will give you an idea how we can model any kind of problem, right? When we are going to simulate, in what way we can take those. So there are two methods, right? So that will be discussed here, Lagrangian and Eulerian approach. Then finally go for the flow pattern, where we'll be defining the different kind of lines, right? Path lines, straight lines, streamlines, timelines, right? ISO lines. There are various kind of lines which will be helpful for visualizing the flow. So let's start discussion with the velocity. As I said that any fluid flow will be specified by the velocity vector, or you can say the resultant velocity. So we'll have to make one relationship of resultant velocity with velocity components as per the direction. It's a one-dimensional, or it's a two-dimensional, or a three-dimensional. So I am considering the case of generic three-dimensional flow field, right? So we are assuming it is a three-dimensional flow field, right? So for a three-dimensional flow field, usually we say it will have three directions, right? X, Y, Z. So I'm drawing here. So this is our reference. All right, we can consider this as a reference. So, for example, this is X, this is Y, right, and this is Z, right? Three-dimensional flow field I have considered, right? So, for a three-dimensional flow field, I'm assuming, right, this notation may be different, right? Some books are using different, but I am using in our case, along the X direction, I'm considering velocity component U, right? Along the Y, I'm considering V. Along the Z, I'm considering W. These are the velocity components, right? And this is the origin point, right? So assume a three-dimensional flow field, right? Along X, Y, and Z direction, where velocity variation along three-dimensional, flow field is represented by small u along the X direction, small v along the Y direction, and small w, right, along the Z direction. If we are considering like this, all right, then we can say now problem is that now you can vary, right? So you can vary, right, like with time, right? If it's a uniform flow or if it's a steady flow or a steady flow, we have not assumed at present any kind of assumptions. We have said that we are considering a three-dimensional flow field, right? In which velocity components are u along x direction, v along y direction, and w along z direction. So we can say that u is a function, any one function, right, of position x, y, z, and t. Why we are considering t? Because we are not assuming this as a steady. So if it is not steady, there will be variation of velocity with respect to time as well. That's why we have considered the time as well. So u function x, y, z, and t. Right. Similarly, we can write v also another function, right? X, Y, Z, and T, and W is also another function, right? X, Y, Z, and T. So if you want to find out, right, any relationship, you have to integrate all these three velocity component with a single velocity component. So we can say, let's suppose resultant velocity of the flow is given by the capital V, right? So we can say resultant velocity, right, resultant velocity is given by V. So V, I am going to write a vector relationship, right? So I will say U. Now along X, right, variation we are assuming I, right, along Y it is J, along W it is K, right. So UI, Vj, and Wk. So this is my equation number one. So this is the resultant velocity vector which I got. So if you find out, right, what is the magnitude of it, you have to take the modulus of that. So you can say this is the resultant velocity vector, right, to three-dimensional flow domain, where all the three velocity components are there. In some cases, right, somebody is asking you to calculate the resultant velocity, so the flow field, right, fully developed flow field in a pipeline. In that case, you will have only one velocity component, right? Now you look at the orientation of pipeline, in what orientation it is, either along x, along y, along z. As per that, you can assume one of these velocity component, right, for a resultant velocity vector. So this is for three dimension. So flow field we have assumed. So magnitude directly you can calculate. So magnitude is nothing but under root of this, or you can say modulus of velocity vector. So you can say u square, v square, and w square. So this is the magnitude of the resultant velocity. So this is the regarding velocity, right? So if you are going to calculate the acceleration, right? Acceleration. So acceleration is what? Rate of change of velocity with respect to time, right? That's it's called acceleration, right? Now what we need to do when you are going to calculate rate of change of velocity, you need to find out the change of velocity along x direction, then y direction, for z direction. Then you differentiate this to time to get the acceleration in corresponding direction. So let's suppose we are considering very minute change in velocity along x direction. So we can say an infinitesimal and infinitesimal change in velocity in x direction. In x direction, the moment we are considering x direction means it is u, right? In x direction, right? If you're writing, that will be very small. So I am writing u, right? So using the partial differential, knowledge that you know how to calculate the dou u, right? So dou u means u is a function of x, y, z, and t. So it can vary along x. It can go even y. There will be influence of y direction flow as well as on u, right? And z direction flow also on u, because these are all interconnected. So dou u, if you want to write, you need to write in this way: dou u divided by dou x, all right? And dou x, this is also dou u, and also you can write dou u by dou y into dou y, right? And then dou u y dou z into dou z. So anyway, in finitesimal change, this will be cancelled out. You will get only dou u, right? But we have considered all the three directions. Now, if you are calculating the acceleration, right? So infinitesimal change in acceleration, right? If you are calculating, if I say a, that is given by, so if I am saying ax, because we are talking about x direction, so this will be given by rho u divided by rho t, right? Where change in time is negligibly small because we have already assumed infinitesimal change, right? So rho t is 0. This can also be written as, right, rho u divided by rho t. So when you are doing that, you have to divide this entire equation, right, by dou t. If you do so, how you can write this? Dou u by dou x, right? Dou x by dou t, which is another term. Similarly, dou u by dou y into dou y by dou t. This is another term, and last term also you can write in this way into rho z y dou t. Now thing is that we forgot to add one more variation because we said that u is a function of x, y, z, and t, right? So along with t also we have to write one more partial differential form, that is called dou u by dou t into dou t, right? So that additional term will come here, that is dou u by dou t, and dou t divided by delta t. Anyway, this will be cancelled out, right? So you will get only dou u by dou t. Now look at this. So dxy dt, x is any distance. So if I say space coordinate, right? A space factor. If I want to write space factor, that will be given as xi, yj, zk. So any change in x with respect to time, right, will be called as velocity, right? Change in distance with respect to time is velocity. So whatever you are getting dou x by dou t is a velocity, right, along x, right? And this is dou y by dou t. This is what? Change in velocity along y direction. And what is this? Dou z by dou t. Change in velocity along z direction. So if I say this as u, this is v, this is w. Clear? This is u, this is v, this is w. So I can replace directly, right? I can say directly here, ax is equal to du divided by dt is nothing but dou u y dou t. This is first term, and I'm getting u and dou u y dou x is small u plus v dou u y dou y plus w dou u y dou z. I got this first acceleration equation, that is along ax direction, right? That is x direction. Similarly, right? Similarly, you can write for remaining. So ay can be written as d, right? V divided by dt is nothing but dou v divided by dou t plus u dou v by dou x plus v dou v by dou y plus w dou v by dou z. This is equation number 3. Similarly, you can write for is that, right? This is dw divided by dt, right, is equal to dou w divided by dou t plus u. Same expression you will be getting here also. Up to here, any doubts? So you got 3 acceleration component, right, along the 3 direction. So resultant acceleration, if you want to write, you can write in a single vector. Resultant acceleration is nothing but a can be written as axi, ayz, azk, right? So this is the resultant acceleration. Now look at these terms, right, that we are getting in all of these 3, right? So first term that you are getting, this is change in velocity with respect to time that you are getting here, right? Second, here what is happening? You are getting velocity, one velocity component, and velocity component, velocity change with respect to space, right? With respect to space, this is space coordinate, right? Here also y is a space coordinate. So you are basically getting 2 terms, right, in a single velocity, single acceleration component, but which is showing the change in velocity with respect to time, and rest of these terms are showing the change in velocity with respect to space, right? Up to here, this is a single term, and this is another term. So if you add all this, right, if you add all this, right, you will be having 2 components in each. One is with respect to time, another is called with respect to space. So we can define 2 component of acceleration in a single one. One is called convective acceleration, and is called total, you can say local acceleration. So this one is called local acceleration. This is called convective acceleration. So definition is very simple. Convective acceleration is the change in velocity, right? Rate of change of velocity, right, with respect to the space. So when there is a change in velocity with respect to space, which kind of flow it will be? It will be non-uniform flow. Whenever non-uniformity in the flow will come into the picture, you will get this component, right, in the acceleration. Right. Second one is this local acceleration, which is showing the rate of change of velocity with respect to time. That means what? In what case you will get this component? In unsteady flow, right? If my flow is unsteady, where properties are changing with respect to time, in that case I will get this local acceleration component in a total acceleration. When you are calculating, you will be counting this component also along with the convective acceleration. Right. So real scenario, when you are simulating the real flow scenario, that will be unsteady as well as some sort of non-uniformity will also be there. So if you are going to predict the acceleration for real flow scenario, in that case you need to consider both, right? It will be dou u by dou t. This is local acceleration plus convective acceleration. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt in this? I think so. This will be very easy, and based on this simple, formula, numerical problems will be asked. I think so. In fluid mechanics, also you might have done some problems, right, based on this. So don't make any mistake, right? This is very simple, right? So when you are calculating total acceleration for three-dimensional flow geometry, it will have two components. That one is local acceleration, which is called convective acceleration. Local acceleration is coming due to the unsteadiness of the flow, and convective acceleration is coming due to the non-uniformity of the flow. Whenever it's not a uniform flow, in that case, convective acceleration also need to be calculated while predicting the resultant acceleration for the flow. Is that clear? So this is the resultant acceleration field, and from here you can get the modulus, right? That's called magnitude of the resultant acceleration. So this is regarding the velocity and acceleration. Now next topic is methods of describing fluid flow motion, right? So there are two methods, right? Even if you consider the thermodynamics concept also, there were also two methods, right? Here also there is a two methods. So what are the two methods? One method is called Lagrangian approach, right, which talks about the molecular, right, when you are much more concerned about the molecular flow or molecular behavior, right, then you need to consider the Lagrangian approach, where you are studying the behavior of each and every individual molecule present in a flow domain, how it is acting, how it's flowing, right? Those all parameters, right, you are going to assess. In that case, you need to consider the Lagrangian approach. But problem with Lagrangian approach is that, right, it's very difficult to trace out each and every individual particles, right, because you have to move along with the particles, right, from one point to the another point. And another thing, if it is a certain volume, right, certain volume will have, let's suppose it is having 100 molecules, that means you have to focus on 100 molecules at an instant. But problem is that all the molecules may not be moving in a well-defined path. Sometimes when steadiness is coming, there will be zigzag motion. In that case, it's very difficult to differentiate, right, or track each and every individual molecules. Another thing, another problem is that at every instant you need to measure the velocity and acceleration. Let's suppose at t is equal to 0 you started. After just you cross something called 1 centimeter distance, you are measuring the velocity and acceleration. Then again at 2 centimeters, like that at different locations you are measuring the velocity and acceleration. Finally, we take the average of all this to predict the overall velocity and acceleration of the flow domain. But problem is that you can focus only on some limited number of molecules. So by studying limited number of molecules behavior, you cannot say what is the exact behavior of an entire flow domain. That's the one problem with this kind of configuration. Another thing, when you are finding out the magnitude or velocity vector, right, of every molecule, you will require n number of equations, right? Let's suppose there are 100 molecules, right? Then you have to write the 100 equations for velocity and acceleration. So when you are predicting the overall behavior, right, it would be very tedious task to calculate the resultant velocity, right? So lot of statistical approaches you need to consider, right, when you are going to predict the overall behavior of the entire flow domain. That's why this is a very big difficulty, or even the disadvantage of this kind of approach. So Lagrangian approach, as I said, that in this method, individual fluid particles are identified, a lump of fluid is considered and followed during course of motion with time. These elements of fluid may change in shape, size, and orientation as it moves, right? And velocity and acceleration are determined as a function of position and time. At a particular position, you are measuring the velocity. So whatever velocity you are calculating, that will be called local velocity at that particular point, right? So if this is the case, right, if this is the case, then you have to calculate the velocity only at particular location. So that will not be the resultant velocity. You cannot say that as a resultant velocity. So we can say any position, right? If I'm saying it is one position, right? This depends on local coordinates. So local coordinates, if I'm saying this, local coordinates are A, B, C, and D, right? Similarly, Y at that particular instant, it is also depending on local coordinates. I will say A, B, C, and T, and Z will also have another function, right? If I say F3, right? A, B, C, and T. So if you are going to calculate the velocity, right? Velocity. So if you just saying u, that will be nothing but at that instant. So directly you can say dx divided by dt is my u. And similarly, v is nothing but dy divided by dt. Alright. And w also you can say write in total form dz divided by dt. So these are all local velocity component at particular position. So you will be fixing some 10 positions, right? So at 10 different positions, you will get the 10 velocity components, and finally you write an equation to find out the resultant velocity. You will take the average of that will give the resultant velocity of the flow field. So this is the velocity, right? So similarly, if you are talking about acceleration, so acceleration is nothing but this will be also local acceleration. So you can say ax is equal to double derivative, right? So you can say d2x divided by dt square, right? And ay is equal to d2y divided by dt square, right? And az is equal to d2z divided by dt square, dt square. So resultant you can say axi, ay az. You can find out the resultant velocity, resultant acceleration. So like that, you need to calculate the resultant velocity and resultant acceleration in the case of Lagrangian approach. So as I said that this is applicable for one molecule. Like that, there will be n number of molecules. For every molecule, you need to measure these many components, and finally write those many equations. Like there are 30 molecules, 30 equations are needed to calculate the resultant velocity and acceleration. So what are the limitations? As I said, that first limitation is difficulty in tracing out the lump of fluid, right? It is very difficult to trace those many 30 molecules because they may not be behaving, uh, very, what we say, in a well defined way. They may be moving in a different direction. It is very difficult to, trace them out. And only by studying the lump of fluid particle motion, it is not possible to define the entire flow pattern. So you cannot exactly say this will be the flow pattern, this will be the resultant velocity and resultant acceleration of the given flow domain. These are the two main drawbacks of Lagrangian approach. That's why we never prefer the Lagrangian approach where while we are studying or simulating the flow behavior, right, in either exterior or interior kind of applications. Next one is Eulerian approach. This is also known as control volume approach, right? Where you are fixing a certain boundary, right? Certain volume, and you are sitting in front of that volume, and a certain mass of flow is coming, entering into that volume and leaving. And you are just observing at a single position, you are measuring the velocity and acceleration. So in this case, right, you will be requiring less number of equations, right, to come up conclusion that is the resultant velocity and acceleration. So here we observe the fluid by setting up fixed stations or observatories in the flow field, all right, and motion of fluid is specified by the velocity component, which will be a function of space and time alone. So when you are sitting in front of a control volume, you already know the boundary of it, right? You know the boundaries of the flow domain, so you know the global coordinates of that, what we say the control volume. So whatever velocity you are measuring will be a function of the global coordinates x, y, z, and t. But in the case of Lagrangian, it was the local coordinates, right? At a particular position, you were measuring the velocity. So in this case, you can write directly velocity components as a function of space and time, right? Velocity as a function of space and time. So if I say u is some one function of Space coordinates are x, y, z, and t. Right. Similarly, v, this is small v, is a function to x, y, z, and t. Similarly, you can say w is a function t, x, y, z, and t. So you can say the resultant velocity vector. You can connect all these, right? Uy, vj, and wk. So this what you got. This is called a resultant velocity vector. And then finally, acceleration can also be calculated. So acceleration in a similar way, right? So for acceleration also you will get ax, ay, right? Az, already we have derived those expressions. Those were in terms of global coordinates. Dou uy dou t, right? You can say u, dou uy dou x, right? V, dou uy dou y plus w dou v, sorry. So here dou uy dou z. Same expression you can write for B component also, alright. So this is very simple, expression that you need to keep in mind when you are dealing with calculating the velocity and acceleration. Again, I made a mistake. And here also you can write dou wy, dou t, u, dou wy, dou x plus b, dou wy, dou y plus w, dou wy, dou z. Clear? So like that you can calculate the velocity and acceleration in this case. Up to here, any doubts?
No, sir.
So if I give you now one numerical problem, right, you can solve it. Do you have calculators with you? You may not have, right? So leave it, numerical problem, leave it, discuss later on. All right. So these are the accelerations. So if now I'm introducing some concept of, vector calculus, right? So if I add all this, right, as I said that total acceleration is nothing but axi, ayz, ayj, and azk. If you add all this, right, what you are getting, you can add all these three in a single bracket, right? And similarly, these all things will come in separate bracket. So this one is called local. This is called convective acceleration. Convective acceleration. So we can say A is nothing but resultant velocity change with respect to time. All right. This is called resultant acceleration. Dou by dou t. Now you just look at these components, right? These. So if I will be adding I, just here j, here k, you will get dou ui dou ti, dou vy dou tj, and dou wy dou t k, right? So basically, what you are getting here, you are getting nothing but dou divided by dou t, right? Of resultant velocity, right? Basically. And this is total. So here total you need to write. Here you need to write total derivative is nothing but local derivative. This is the first term. Second term, just you look at this. Give a bracket here. Add I. Right. Here give a bracket. Add j. Here give a bracket. Add k. So what you will get? Right. What you will get here is nothing but u dou ui dou x. That's one term. Right. Similarly, dou ui dou y is another term, dou ui dou z is another term, and you add everything, right? So this will become what? Resultant velocity, right? Divergence into velocity component, where this is nothing but dou y dou x I dou y z dou y dou z k. Term, right? For a one case. Second case, for velocity v, you will get this complete term, and for az, you will get this complete term. If you add everything, this will become resultant velocity into del operator multiplied by the velocity vector. So this is differential form of resultant acceleration. Clear? Next one is flow pattern. So when you are talking about flow pattern, we are going to define the different kind of lines. So let's start with the simple types of line, that is called path lines.
Sir, excuse me. Could you just go back to the previous slide, sir? Just a second.
Yes.
1 second, sir. Yes, sir. Good to go. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So first definition is path line, right? So by the name itself, we can say it is talking about the path followed by each and every fluid particles, right? So we can say it is a trace or trajectory of a fluid particles as it moves from one location to another location every time. So let's suppose we are saying that it is starting at t is equal to 0, right, and is going up to t is equal to some pn, right? Some field is there, the starting position here and final position here. So we define two kind of flow, right? When it's moving, we can say this as laminar flow, or we can say this as a turbulent flow. So if it is a in laminar flow, what will happen? All fluid layers, right, will be moving along a well-defined path, right? So if I am saying this particle, if it starts moving, it will be traveling either horizontally like this, or it may be traveling at any inclined location, right? Depending on the orientation of pipe or orientation of the surface over which flow is taking place, right? So let's suppose this is moving like this. So if I am considering horizontal case, this will be going like this. So first position here, second position is here, then third here, like that it will go. Similarly, second layer will also be going in a parallel to it, right? Third will also be considered parallel to this. So this kind of trace or trajectory of a fluid particles when all the fluid layers are moving approximately parallel to each other, right? Or in a well-defined path, this is called path lines, right? Path lines in laminar flow. Laminar flow. This is the first case, very simple case. Usually flow will not be laminar, always keep in mind. Second case, when flow is turbulent, what will happen? In that case, some particles will be going like this, right? Some particles will be traveling like this, right? Some may go like this, right? So there will be a lot of zigzag formation, right? Zigzag formation, this kind of thing may happen in turbulent flow. So if I put the particles, right, the same particle which is traveling, right, the trace of single particle, right, as it's moving from one location to the another location. So first time it went like this particle is going in a horizontal line, other particles are moving in a zigzag. So if this kind of flow pattern, if you are visualizing, that is nothing but path lines in turbulent flow. So in turbulent flow, problem is that there will be a lot of mixing, right, of energy from exterior boundaries. Because of that, a lot of disturbances are happening to the flow domain. When disturbances are happening to the flow domain, their layers will not be moving in a well-defined path. They will be some location larger pressure is developed, another location lower pressure is there. Because of that, a lot of disturbances in the flow domain will be creating. Because of that, particles will behave indifferently with respect to each other. So this is simple path line. Next one is streamline. So streamlines, right? Basic definition says that it is an imaginary curve drawn at any instant through a flowing fluid in such a way that the tangent to it at any point, right, gives the direction of resultant velocity. This is the generic definition of it. So a streamline will give you the direction of resultant velocity. If you put the tangent over it, you will get the direction of resultant velocity. So I'm considering the three-dimensional flow field again, right? So this is x, right? This is z, this is y. This three-dimensional flow field, and I'm assuming one streamline. It may have a number of streamline in the flow, right? So I'm considering one streamline which is going like this. Is one of the streamline. So if I draw the tangent over it, right? So if I'm considering this point, if I'm drawing tangent over it, right, this will give me the resultant velocity. This will give the resultant velocity. That's what is the definition. It is an imaginary curve drawn at any instant through a flowing fluid in such a way that the tangent to it at any point gives the direction of the resultant velocity of the flow. So this is the resultant velocity of the flow. Now assume that. If I'm drawing horizontal line like this, if I draw vertical line this, so this is I'm assuming x, this I'm assuming y. If I connect z coordinate which is here, right, to the final point where it has gone, this is known as z, right? This is z, this is y, and this is known as streamline. As I said, a streamline is represented by the S, given a capital S, I am representing for the streamline. So we have assumed elementarily streamline. So this, let's suppose this elementarily streamline is having a length of ds. So I am writing here, ds is the elementary length of streamline. So if I am saying elementary, right, all these coordinates which I am representing here will be elementary coordinate dx, dy, dz. So if I write like ds, right, is equal to dx along I direction, dy along z direction, and dz along k direction. This is the basically displacement along the flow direction. So this is the flow, right? Showing the direction of the flow, right? So along this, coordinates are behaving like this: dx, dy, dz. And velocity vector, if you are representing, this is well known: ui, vj, and wk. This is the resultant velocity vector which is here, right? Which is given by this equation. So now, a definition saying that we are drawing a tangent over it, right? Tangent over it, which is showing the resultant velocity of the flow. That means the resultant velocity should be always, right, tangent to the streamline. Tangent to the streamline. So we can say by definition, streamline velocity vector must be directed along the ds. So that definition is given by, if you take cross product of these two, right, if you take it, this will always be 0. This is the definition of streamline by definition. So now, how to do the cross product of these two, right? If you know basic elementary, vector calculation, you can do that. You know the velocity vector, you know the ds also. You need to do the cross product of it. Matrix, yes. Put the matrix and start doing right in your notebook fastly. So you write I, say k, I here, j here, k here, u, b, w, dx, dy, dz. This should be equal to 0. That's all. So expand it, you will get one single equation. All right. So if you are expanding it, you will get very simple equation I, and then cross product like this you do. So v dz, w dy, this is one term, right? Then negative j, all right, u dz, w dx, this is another term, plus k, all right, last term you can write here. So u dy, v dx, this should be equal to 0. Right. So this zero you can write like 0 I plus 0 Z plus 0 K, then equating the terms, right? Equate I, equate J, and equate K. You will get three equations out of it. You will get three equations out of this. Clear or not? So three equations. What three equation you will get? First equation, from first bracket you will get V dz equal to W dy, right? From second bracket you will get U dz equal to W dx. From third bracket you will get U dy is equal to V dx. So you can write like dy divided by V is equal to Z divided by W. This is the first equation that you got. Second equation you will get dx divided by U is equal to Z divided by W. This is the second equation that you got. And last equation, right, you can write dx divided by U is equal to dy divided by V, equation number 3. So from three brackets, by equating, you will get these three equations, right? So what is common here? What is common here? So dx by du is equal to dz by w, and dx du is also equal to dy by v. So you can combine all this, right, together. You can write a single equation dx by u is equal to dy by v is equal to dz divided by w. So this is a single equation, right, connecting all those three. So this is known as equation of streamline. Streamline for 3D flow. 3D flow. So this is for three-dimensional flow. If somebody is saying that it is a two-dimensional flow, just consider the two velocity components. First, you identify in what direction your flow is taking place, right? Either x or y. Then you consider only x and y component. So if you're writing for two-dimensional x, y, you can just consider these two terms, and you can calculate the equation of streamline for two-dimensional flow. If it along y and z, then we consider these two. So this is a general equation for streamline in three-dimensional flow domain. Up to here, any doubt?
Sir, can we say that the S curve, streamline curve, and the tangent are parallel to each other?
Yes, yes, that's what. If you are putting the tangent over the streamline curve, right?
Yeah,
At
then can we equate the slopes then? For example, if I were to take ds by dt, then
yes,
that should be equal to the slope of dv bar by dt.
yes, yes, you can do it like that, right? So at any location, you can take the slope, right? So at any location, if you are putting the tangent, that will be called as resultant velocity. Or you can, in other way, you can define streamline is a locus of all the points, right? What we say, uh, all the point at the tangent to it, right? Resultant velocity. So you can say the streamline can be drawn to the resultant velocity points along the flow field.
Sir, but dimensionally I'm getting it incorrect, sir. If I take ds by dt equal to dv by dt, then I'm getting velocity equal to acceleration.
No, ds by dt cannot be considered as dv by dt. Keep in mind, ds is entire flow domain, right? This is the streamline as I have said. So from starting position to O and final position, total length is ds. All right. So total length is ds, but we are considering only local point here, right? One single point. If you are drawing a tangent, that is showing the resultant velocity, right? So v
Okay.
into over this elementary distance ds is equal to 0. So ds
Okay,
by
sir.
dt will not be dv by dt.
Okay.
Clear? Next one is so streamline is clear. There are properties of streamlines. First property of streamline is that two streamlines will never intersect each other. That's the first important property of streamline. So streamline never cross each other. If they are crossing each other, that means at a single point you will have two direction of resultant velocity for a single fluid particle, which is physically impossible. Keep in mind, two streamlines, if they are interacting or intersecting at a single point, at that single point you will have two direction of the resultant velocity, which is physically not possible. Keep in mind. So streamline never cross each other. That's one case. Second important property of streamline is that there is no cross flow across the streamline, right? So there will be no flow which is coming across the streamline. So if I am drawing a streamline here and a flow is taking place here, it cannot cross like this. It can flow parallel to it, right? And in between it can flow like this, but it will never cross it, right? Because there is no cross flow. If it is going to be cross flow at this single point, will have two directions of resultant velocity. One is in this direction, another will be in this direction for the same flow field, which is physically impossible. For a single flow field, there will be a single velocity component or a single resultant velocity. So first point is there is no cross flow. So if there is no cross flow, so we can treat a single streamline itself is a rigid boundary, right? Boundary, rigid boundary. So this can be considered as a rigid boundary. So there is no cross flow. There cannot be flow across it, but there will be flow parallel to it, or there will be flow within it. Right, that's one thing. So there is no flow across the streamline. So streamline is equivalent to a rigid boundary. Third point, in a steady flow, if you are considering a steady flow, in that case, streamlines and path lines both will be the same. There is no difference between these, right? Path line and streamlines in steady flow. If it is an unsteady flow, then only you can differentiate between streamline and path lines. Next one, a group of streamlines passing through a closed curve. If I am considering a closed curve here, this is the closed curve. A group of streamlines are passing through it. So one has gone like this, right? Another is going like this. Like that flow is taking place. These are different streamlines, S1, S2, S3. So in a single flow, you will have a number of streamlines. Right. If they are crossing through, they are passing through a closed curve, they will be forming the stream tube. So if I consider here also one cross section, so this will be known as stream tube. This is also imaginary, right? We are imaging in the flow, right? Some of the n number of streamlines, they are passing through some closed curve. Those are known as stream tube. Now, last point, stream tube will be fixed in space for static flow. If it is a static flow, right? Static flow, that means variation in property with respect to time is zero, right? With respect to time is zero, but with respect to space, it may vary. If it is a static case, in that case, stream tube will be fixed, right? If it is an unsteady flow, in that case, the stream tube will not be fixed, it will be moving, right? It's instantaneous. You cannot fix the location of stream tube for an unsteady flow. So whenever you are doing the analysis, you have to make your problem steady. That is the must requirement requirement. That's the must requirement. So every time when we are simulating the flow, we are making our problems steady, right? That's the one thing. So the moment you are making the problem steady, you can draw the stream tube. And through the stream tube, you can visualize the flow and you can find out the change in properties of the flow. Streak line, right? Next one is streak line. It is the instantaneous picture of positions of all the fluid particles, right? That have passed through a fixed point in the flow field. Example is smoke flow from a fixed nozzle, right? If you consider the fixed nozzle here, this is the nozzle, all right, which is fitted with a chamber, right? Here you are burning some fuel and smoke is generating and smoke is coming out through this small cavity. It will be going a horizontal line, right? So all the fluid particles will be coming like this. So this is known as streak line. Streak line. Right. Next one is timeline. If you're talking about timeline, it is the locus of group of particles which originated simultaneously from the same point at some earlier instant of time. So in this case, first case where you have drawn this, right? Here all the particles are going in a well-defined path, right? And they are coming from a fixed location. But in this case, timeline, what will happen? Even though this is a nozzle, right, through which flow is coming. So one particle is going like this, right? Another particle is moving like this, right? Third particle is going like this. So initial position is like this, right? Of some particles, then it's going like this. So if I want to draw, right, these timelines, timeline is the locus of group of particles. So this is the one group of particles. Another group of particles is here, right? Third group of particles are here. So these are known as timelines. And what is this? This is path line. Every particle which is traveling, right, this is known as path line. and the locus of all the, one line you are drawing through a n number of molecules, right? These are the particles, but they are traveling. They initially they were here, and second time they are here, third time they are here. If you are drawing a line through that set of particles, that is known as timelines. Is that clear? So streak line, timelines, path line, and streamline. So we have defined total these kind of lines which are required to visualize the flow. For today, this much is enough. So if you are having any doubt, let's start our discussion.